Tuesday evening. Glad everyone's here from calling you or talking to you from Cincinnati. Got some good rain coming through. We had it is smoking hot. Obviously, not as hot as in California with the Dixie fires. I've got family out there and some friends that are watering their plants and watering their roof at the same time. So, some rough times out there. Have a great guest tonight on. I'm excited to bring her in. I did want to just kind of start off. A couple people have asked about my yoga ventures, and yes, I have completed. Last night was practice. They call them practices, not classes. I don't know why, but I completed practice number 5 last night, and I love it. It's difficult. I've realized that I have the balance of a one-legged drunk giraffe, I believe, but that just shows me the potential. There's plenty of room for growth. I'm really loving it, though. I think it's going to be. I told one of the instructors, to me, yoga comes across, and my youngest son heard I was doing this, and he thought I was joking, and actually seemed very disappointed when I told him I actually was doing yoga. And then I told him I bought some leg warmers as well, which even sealed the deal more. But I think yoga is going to be like sobriety is. When I started my sobriety, when I decided I needed to get sober, I did it to quit drinking beer. And I have, in a year and a half later, realized what I've gotten out of it is so much more than just than giving up beer. The alcohol is almost it's just one part of it. I've got the rewards I've got, the freedom I got. I had no idea. And I think yoga is going to be a lot like that. I think it's going to be, I'm doing it for balance and flexibility as I get older. And I have a feeling I'm going to get a whole lot more than just that. So that's going well. So yes, I haven't, I'm still going with it. I'm loving it. This past weekend, my life, we went to a wedding Saturday night, and my Elizabeth and I, and saw a lot of people that I used to know or still used to hang with, I guess, still drinking. And it's really an awakening to see people that still drink like I used to drink. Actually, they didn't drink as much as I did, but still pretty heavy drinkers. And you can kind of see the things that I hate to remember, just that desperation when the bar is about to close for dinner or whatever, and trying to sneak 2 instead of 1, and just some of the things that I could feel the pain with. So it just was, it was fantastic to be at those events and not even those kind of events and not even really think about it unless I see other people drinking. So the freedoms just keep coming. But that being said, I am a complete rookie compared to this person. I met Amy through AA meetings when I first got sober through AA, and I met her at the local. She's local with me, and 18 years, I believe, 18 or 19 years of sobriety. But she was a incredible resource for me and motivation. And I finally pinned her down to get some time where we could pick her brain and get some of that wisdom from her. So I want to bring in Amy. How you doing, Amy? Good to see you. Welcome to Getting Back to Zero.
Hi, Jeff. How are you? Proud of you for the yoga. I do yoga too.
Do you really? Well, we can talk off air, but it's my instructor. I think she sees this mostly as I'm, and then a big thud as my head hits the wall. But I'm loving it. It's fun,
It's very.
There's a lot to learn with it. I'm just trying to. I'm in a little bit of the survival mode, but I know it's going to be big. I was talking to you before, and you are, I believe, at 19 years of sobriety,
right?
Which seems forever ago, but that means you quit drinking just after 9/11. And that seems like it was just a couple years ago, but 19 years ago seems forever. So I guess that just means we're both old, is what it comes down to.
That's what it means. That's what they say, yeah.
What was 9/11? Was that an excuse to drink for you back then?
Well, I was passed out when it happened. I got a phone call um, from a family member. I should have been at work at this point too. Might I add? But no, seriously, my mom really literally had to call and wake me up out of a pass out, blackout sleep and tell me what was happening. And that was close to the end of my drinking, but I I did drink another, let's see, 6 months. And I would say, yeah, that was a very good, opportunity for more drinking, um, more, kind of like self-pity-ish, woe is everything, the world's going to end type, which, I mean, granted, it was scary. Um, but it certainly added to my already dark state of mind, which is where I was at that time.
I'm going to go right for the jugular because I'm trying to. The questions I ask are ones I ask myself, but I'm going to just hit it hard. Why did you drink? Why did you drink? Why were you drinking like you drank back then? Were
Well,
things that bad in your life? What was?
no, absolutely not. I had a great childhood. I come from a wonderful, loving family. There's no alcoholism in my family. And I saw, if anything, I saw normal drinking. My dad had a couple beers here and there. Um, my grandfather come home and drink a martini, maybe two. I don't even remember if he had a second one, but I know I was obsessed with his martinis and the smell. And when we were visiting, I'd want to go run up and make them, and I would smell them and the glass. And I was just a kid. So I didn't see anything like that. And I definitely did not see anyone um, taking drugs, which I ended up doing as well. So
What
the only
was it?
explanation I can come up with is that, and what made sense to me was that this was a disease that I had.
Was it a progression, or were you from day one bad?
No, total progression for me too. And so it was, the delusion was just even stronger because I had no reason to think I shouldn't drink anymore. And it started, it started weekends in high school. And I was pretty young in high school when I went to high school, but so I was maybe 12 or 13 as a freshman. And that's just what the kids were doing in the town that, I moved into when I started high school. And, it started off as just weekend drinking. And I remember knowing I probably shouldn't be doing this. But I
Was
remember,
it just because it was wrong, or because of actions that you were
no, because
living?
I shouldn't be drinking because we were sneaking it.
Okay.
Friends had older siblings that would get us beer, and I knew it was wrong. Yeah, because we were sneaking, and 12 and 13-year-olds shouldn't be drinking. And so, but I also knew that I would be doing it again. So therefore, I became very sneaky, very manipulative. Um, it's interesting too. I remember because I come to find out, for me, this is just my awareness of my own journey. Is the drinking and the drug, they just became a symbol. And I have of deeper um, deeper defects of character for me. And so the first one is that I remembered was lying and getting away with it. And that was even, I'm talking 5 or 6 years old. Um, and I think, from there, that's just the story of my drinking, was just being very sneaky, never really getting caught, even when like friends and people I was hanging out with, everyone was getting caught, going to jail, going to rehabs as kids, and I was able to always make everything look good on the outside and keep it looking okay, so that there was no attention brought to me So it didn't ever look like I had a problem. And I would challenge myself mentally, like in school, making sure I got good grades, making sure I was doing what everyone else was doing, went on to college, got a couple degrees, went to law school. And all the while, my drinking is getting progressively worse. And I ended up, I guess, subconsciously realizing that my drinking was getting worse, but I can't say that out loud, right? So when the drugs were introduced, it became a way to control my drinking, as it were. So that by the time I did finally get sober, clean sober, um, I was willing to be a drug addict and admit I was a drug addict, but I was not going to admit I was alcoholic. And I was just trying to protect my drinking. Um,
That's interesting. It's one of those, here, I'll put this fire out and hope that you don't realize that there's a whole nother fire
oh yeah,
burning right next to it.
yeah. Nobody could see the whole. I had so many different lives going, and the whole MO was not let anyone get close enough to see the whole picture, because I had groups over here, and then, and then I had the one that I wanted, my family to see, and so. I was able to put together and give it my best shot at life. I think a big turning point for me was when a friend of mine, well, it was actually an ex-fiance, he passed away from this disease, and I was there when he died and saw him go from a big, strong, good-looking, healthy guy to cirrhosis of the liver. So he's laying in a hospital bed. He's bright yellow. We're young, we're in our 30s, and that really shook me. But at the same time, I'm never thinking I'm going to be like him, because I didn't drink like that. Well, that's because I was, I'd gotten into the drug world, and so I didn't get all the I didn't have all the consequences that he had. I didn't have the health issues, and I will say this: I got now I got sober in 2001. I got one DUI, and I have to say this because I mean it's comical to me. It was not at the time.
Yeah.
I got one DUI. It was in 1991. I had just found out that I passed the bar exam. And I was out on the Ohio River on a friend's boat, drinking all day, celebrating. And as I was coming home, I lived right off Columbia Parkway, which is a street right along the river. They were doing construction work on the river. And I made this left-hand turn where I would turn all the time. But apparently there was a sign back there saying road work ahead, no left turn. And I got pulled over. And this is like 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm going home to change and go back out. And I get this DUI. And of course, it's not my fault, because they're the ones that changed. Last week I could have turned left.
Right. Exactly.
I can't,
Little help here, a little advance notice, please.
Right. Especially, yeah. I couldn't see the sign because I was drunk. But so that was that was 11 years before I got sober. And
did you make attempts during those 11 years?
Hmm?
Did you make attempts during those 11 years?
Never once. I made attempts to not have to drive anymore. And so I made sure that I wasn't driving. I was willing to let anyone else get a DUI.
I know that one too.
And
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing to admit that. Oh, he'll get the DUI. Of course, no one else did. they weren't alcoholic apparently, but yeah, so I just wouldn't drive. So that too fueled my drug use too. It's like, well, I'll just do drugs all day and drive. And that's what I did. Um so there's 11 years. That was the only consequence I had, and basically had a slap on the wrist. And I was so, I mean, when I had to go to court for that, and my lawyer had told, because by this time I know a lot of people too, and my lawyer told the judge that I just passed the bar, and he congratulated me in front of the whole courtroom, and I'm like, oh my god.
Can we get a picture after I sentence you? Can we get a shot here?
So I basically just had to do that 3-day. There's a 3-day program here, driving, just a driver intervention program, and that was it. And I can tell you that the person that picked me up, I made sure that they had beer in the car waiting for me. We had to watch. AA people came in there to talk, and I looked at this woman, and I was just like, "Damn, I feel sorry for you." She literally told what was to be my story, but I remember that, and I remember watching the movies and um, all the scare tactics, and having to answer the questions to see if you're
Mm-hmm.
alcoholic. And of course I lied, and of course I'm encouraging everyone there to lie, because, well, if I'm honest, they're going to want me to do more things that I'm not willing to do. And that's just how selfish I am too. There may have been people in there that really wanted help, and I'm over here saying, don't put that down. If you say that, they'll use
Yeah.
that. So that was the only, I say the only consequence, but really the worst consequence of all is, what it did to me internally, which there's no worse pain than, completely hating yourself, um, not knowing, uh, not caring, um, and just basically wanting to die. And really, the only thing in my life at that time, I have a son, still have him. And if there was any outside force or love or whatever that could get me clean, it would have been him. And I just didn't know how to do it. And I did it to a treatment center. Yeah.
Were you getting any pressure from other people, any friends or family saying, hey, Amy, you're kind of maybe not going the right direction?
Not until later on, because I mean, I was hiding it pretty well. And like I said, only few people knew parts. Now, my one good friend, she was kind of worried about me, because in there I had gotten married and split up by the time I got sober. But and so when I was getting ready to split up, she was concerned, really about me living alone. She probably knew the most, but again, nobody knew the whole. I couldn't let anyone know the whole puzzle, the whole picture. And but I think they did start talking. So towards the end now I'm losing weight too. I look like a skeleton, a dead, death. Um, and I'm having little glimpses of my life, seeing little glimpses, like my 5-year-old asking me to wake him up, or trying to wake me up to take him to kindergarten, stuff like that. That was just making me want to literally blow my brains out. Um, can't open the mail. It's just coming through the mail slot. Um, getting in my car to go somewhere. And I remember one time having, one foot in, one foot out, hands on the wheel. I don't know if I'm going this way or supposed to be leaving. I don't know if I'm coming or going for real. Driving down the street, and this is all in a local, close-knit community too, where people know each other. And I'm driving down the street and I'm coming to, and there's a big tree there, and I'm on the grass, and I'm like missing the trees by this much.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I had one of those with a telephone pole that, boy, I missed it, and I don't know how.
Right.
I shouldn't be sitting here. Is all I can say.
Exactly. Yeah. So
what was the was there any one particular event, or did it just finally get to where the bag was full and couldn't take any more?
Well, there was a, I started having moments, like that one with my son asking me to wake him up, and then me just, he's going, mommy, why can't you just wake up? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking, I don't know why I can't get up, but and then so people started noticing, between, the weight loss, the not showing up for things, for family things, or not answering my phone for anyone unless it was, like a drug dealer or something. And at that time, we didn't have cell phones, thank God. I wasn't, yeah, they could hear it in my voice. And I know my mom started to get worse. She would start talking. I have two brothers. She'd start talking to my brothers. One of them I was able to disclose a little more to, because I'm close to both of them, but the one is 15 months older than me. But I remember, yeah, and I think they started talking to my, people at work and my friends. So my family really did try to get involved. Like I said, I was separated from my husband, and my son was going back and forth. And there was an incident where, he didn't want to leave me, but it was his turn to go with his dad, and he's putting up a fight, and I'm just like, my heart's breaking that this kid, that I can't even like have a normal, trade off with his father. And I think, he sensed that I was in trouble, I'm sure, as a kid, and just, that kind of stuff. And then my brother called me one day, and this was really bizarre. But he had this really stern voice, and he said, Amy. And I'm like, what? I for some reason, I talked to him, and he said, do you trust me? And I was like, okay, this is weird. And why are you saying that? And why are you using those words? I mean, that's not part of my vocabulary, and every person I know flashed through my head, and I thought about trusting them all. And it was like, he was the only one in the world that could have said that, and I would have said yes. I wouldn't have said it to my mom, my dad, husband, no one else. It was perfect. Mm-hmm. Probably not even my friends. And I just said yes. And that's all I said. And he's like, you need to go get some help, because I don't want to see what happened to the friend that I was talking about before, my ex. Because he was like part of our family. He said, I don't want to see what happened to him happen to you. And I'm like, thinking, what are you talking about? I don't drink like that. You're nuts. Mm-hmm. But there was just some urgency in his voice, and I just thought, okay. And I think at the same time, there was some relief, because, I thought it would be a good idea.
The relief, I love that, because that was kind of when I knew I was going in, when I finally said I'm going into rehab, there was it's over. I mean, maybe, hoping, but it was like, thank God I'm done. I'm exhausted. I've run out of lies. I can't do it.
Right.
It was a relief. That's interesting you said that.
Yeah, it was a relief. Yeah. And now still, I'm not thinking there's no way I'm quitting drinking. But yeah, but I thought, yeah, you should not be doing drugs like this. You have a child, you love your child, and it's probably not a good idea to go on like you're going on. But I also knew I couldn't stop. So when he said, go get some help, I thought that, it was relief there. I can't tell you from what date that was till I know I made it to this treatment center on April 2nd or 3rd. I use April 3rd as my sobriety date, but I agreed to go somewhere. I didn't even know where I was going, and thankfully, so I have an uncle who lives in Colorado who's a criminal defense attorney, and apparently, my family had been talking to him, and he recommended a treatment center out there, where he sends his clients. So I thought, well, hey, trip to Colorado. I'm delusional, right? But I'm thinking, okay, take 28 days and go out there. Now, I knew that they were going to have AA meetings and things at this place, but I just thought, well, I won't participate in that part of it. I'll do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But, when I got there, I found out I wasn't special, and they weren't going to let me have special rules, and I was going to participate like everyone else, like every other delusional person in there. And so that's really how I got introduced.
Did your transformation of becoming willing happen when you were in that treatment?
Yeah, it happened in there.
Do you know what was a catalyst for doing that? Was it the connection, hearing other people's stories?
That was that. Yeah, it was, seeing people, because what would happen, people from the outside there would come in and talk to us and conduct meetings. And I just, I couldn't poke holes in their stories, and they looked calm. I couldn't imagine being able to sit for an hour and not want to jump out of my skin, because I'm literally rocking and just want to peel off my skin and run, and they're talking. They're saying things that I'm thinking that I could never put into words, and I just started to relate to them. So that was one thing. And then I can't deny it's the relief that I was getting, so the relief continues. So for me, that's what it is, even still, I still need relief from myself, really, is what I found. And so what I noticed was every time I would do something that they suggested, or, listen to somebody else, I was getting the relief I needed. And at some point, I wasn't no longer thinking about drinking. I related to people. I related to the alcoholics in there. And finally it hit me like, duh, you're not stupid. You're just fighting. There's a part in the big book that somebody read. It was italicized. And it said, well, when I saw that it was italicized, I remembered a professor once telling me, if something's in italics,
It must be good.
you might want to pay attention to it. That's exactly what he said. So when I saw that, I'm like, so the italicized part said, well, we cease fighting everybody and everything. We have to. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm just fighting being an alcoholic, the word, And at that point, I was starting to feel better. I'm a feel good junkie. And if I feel good, I'm going to want more of feeling good. And by this point, I think, I'm starting to feel good without any substances. So I kind of just chased that from there.
It's funny about I was going to ask you when you first said those words, but even more importantly, I know, and I even caught myself hesitating right there. I know I'm an alcoholic. I know that there's I put it on paper, but I hate saying it. And I don't know why, because it's such end. It's over. It's such a complete white flag. It signifies every bit of that's it. I'm naked and I got nothing to do. I got nothing left. And to say it is still, I say it. I go to AA meetings still. They're my, my recovery is two-part. My recovery, AA gave me the structure, but meetings like this and the other stuff, TLC, some of the other groups I'm in, give me the connection that I need. So it's a two-part. But so I say, I'm Jeff, I'm an alcoholic. I hate saying that. And I know that I'm not alone. It's not a pretty thing to say.
Right. Right. But I got to the point too where, I was so convinced that that I should have been dead. And just the amount of cocaine in my system, I was literally told, my counselor told me that his son passed away from like 1/16 the amount. I mean, that's, and then knowing my drinking, even so, it didn't matter if it was drugs or drinking. It was like I had nowhere to go but die. That's So that, and I became convinced of that. So then it became okay. Now I just want to, like, I really thought I would do their work, graduate, be done, and I'm good at that. I thought it was a test that had 12 questions. You answer them, you're done. And I was a good test taker, and so I was just willing to do say anything, do anything just to feel better.
Yeah.
I started, like I said, to get some relief. And I think what happened was, as the obsession started to leave, that's when I started feeling better. Now I can't explain exactly when. I say I went in there a drug addict, I came out an alcoholic, and just fine with it. Yeah. But yeah, I do know what you're saying. For some reason, I wasn't willing to be alcoholic. Or say it because,
Well, people don't look down at, socially. Someone has a, problem with cocaine. Oh, that's a bummer, whatever. But an alcoholic to say that is still a little bit of a sign of a weakness versus some of the other drugs are the drug got a hold of them. I mean, the perception, and maybe that's just my perception, and that's why I struggle with it. But it's
I think the reality is now just from helping a lot of people over the years, and the field I'm in, I think out there a lot of people do realize. I agree with you. I mean, I don't want to say that, but I just wonder too if it's just me, because somewhere back there I want to be able to drink again someday. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If that
and is that okay? Is that, Amy, is that okay that you still someday, I know if you're like me, it won't happen, but is it wrong that for you to say someday I wish I could drink again, but even though you can't? Is that something that because I would think recovery, we want that thought to just, it's poof, it's magically gone.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say I want to drink again. Sometimes I think I'm missing out by not drinking. But then I know that I'm not, because for me, like you were talking about, going to the wedding I go places. I can't, a big part of my recovery was that I still wanted to enjoy myself and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
It taught, I learned from people that, have had the experience that you can go anywhere. It's my state of mind when I'm going. And that's what I got to look out for. So I haven't missed out on any. I mean, there's no reason for me to ever go somewhere where they're snorting lines or, shooting heroin or something. I mean, but if I have a legitimate reason to be anywhere else, I listen to music. I love going out and listening to music. I haven't, I have my friends drink, my family drinks, my brothers, and they're our kids. Um, they don't overdo it. They don't drink and then go need to call, get some cocaine to go with it. So
Mhm.
that's what I do. But
I was going to ask you, I got some questions, but being with 18, 19 years of sobriety, one of them was, how do you not forget what it was like? How does that soften? But then I thought about, you quit right around 9/11, and I thought, well, I remember 9/11 like it was yesterday. So that kind of,
yeah.
I remember everything about that day, but I'll ask it anyways. How do you, after 19 years of living with alcohol, how do you not forget why you quit, and or more importantly, the impact of why you quit?
Well, I think that that for me is the importance of doing things like sharing my story, helping other people, because then it keeps it alive. It actually, not only that part of it, but the miracle of not drinking anymore, which to me still blows my mind that I haven't had a drink in that long. And that's how I know this is like it's really not my willpower doing this. I know that, and that's just for me. I mean, everybody has their own journey, but yeah, keeping it, up front and center with people, sharing my story. I sponsor a lot of women, doing things like this and just showing up at meetings. Also, when I hear other people tell their story now, it's like I can relate to people now. Before, it's like everything, somebody, it's like, I had these blinders around where I could not hear what people were saying. And, when I was in my disease, I really didn't care. And if I was listening to somebody, it was only to think about what I'm going to say back, there was
When
no
you
real. So, when I hear people now, I can relate to people. I can relate to all kinds of people. And it's not just alcoholics. And I think that helps me remember too that I just shouldn't even be here. I think so having compassion um, and really helping others, I think, is what keeps it real, keeps it fresh.
How do you know? I know you use sponsor, which is mentor for anyone that doesn't know AA, pretty much being I guess, a coach through sobriety, for lack of better terms. But when someone, I how do you know when someone is ready versus how do you know when someone that comes to you and says, "Will you be my sponsor? I got to quit drinking." I'm sure there's times when you say they're not ready. How do you tell the difference?
Um, Usually, I'll be real blunt here. It goes a lot smoother if somebody's willing. I've just noticed. Um, because if they're like me and you're desperate enough and you're willing to do anything, you ask questions. You don't argue with people who are trying to help you. And that's one thing. And just really, I try not to even. I used to do that. Think, well, are they serious? Are they not? And anymore, I've gotten so much help from so many different people. And I remember this one guy saying, Amy, you know what? It's none of your business where they're at in this journey. This may be the best that person is ever going to be. And are you willing to help or not? And that's all you got to worry about. And so, it kind of took the whole deal off of if they're ready or they're not. And if somebody's ready to be sober, I've noticed there's no stopping. You can't say anything right or wrong. I can still, I just try to guide people with my own experience because no one's going to have the exact same experience I've had. And really, I learn a lot from the people that I help. I learn the most from them. So, I learn about myself and what I'm capable of and what, just I learn about myself as a human, and really that's all that this thing has allowed me to become. It's just a human being. I don't have to be perfect. I can make mistakes, and I don't have to beat myself up over it. I don't have to drink over anything, and um, I just get to live and be a part of. And I never was that. I was always like a bystander looking in on the rest of the world in my own little cave of self, and just trying to numb it all out.
How when when one of my biggest issues that I struggled with was, I call it comparative justification, and because I'm not as bad as him, even, or when Elizabeth was getting on me about my drinking. Oh, you think I'm bad? Well, you're lucky you're not married to so and so. You should be thrilled that your husband's only the drunk that he is, because how would you like it if I was like that guy? So I did justify. I compared myself to others, and I think that was such a threat for me, because I needed to compare myself to maybe what I was, compare myself to me, not to him.
Well, that, and be grateful you still had people around you. Um, because I was busy getting rid of people in pushing people away. So I could, like, really literally thought that if I just get alone, if everyone just leave me alone, then I'll be fine, you know. And I remember having that thought, and as I'm thinking that, it's 8:30 in the morning as I'm heading to work, and I have to make a stop to get something to even get there. And that was another one of my little whoa things, but yeah, I know. I mean, that, keeping up, that somehow being able to keep a job, um, never going to jail, all that stuff. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if I get that bad, you know, then I'll do something about it. But like I said, my uh, consequences became more internal. So there was no comparing. I mean, I literally just wanted to just curl up and not wake up at times.
I think mine were internal too. I think some of the worst things that delayed me were not getting the DUI, not wrecking the car, not losing the job. I mean, I was a day away from all that. But the other one is when my doctor told me that my liver enzymes looked good.
Oh yeah.
And that was horrible news to get, because it meant it's go time.
Right.
I don't need to quit yet now, because I'm good. And if he had
Right.
told me that, now I don't know if that would have made a difference, but it sure didn't help to
Right.
tell me that my liver was looking good and don't worry about it, you're doing fine.
Right. Well, same. Yeah. I didn't have the health issues or anything, but it and remember too, I'm not thinking that when I went to treatment, I wasn't thinking like this is going to be it for my drinking. I'm thinking they're going to help me get off these pills, and I'll just, I'll be able to just drink the rest of my life. That's what I thought. So, so I had already started getting some of the relief when I did realize, oh no, you are alcoholic. You drink, it's just that you used whatever um, pill forms of alcohol or whatever. And they told me that too. They suggested that um, when I was, reading the book, to substitute the word drugs every time it said alcohol. They made it sound like, oh, since you're so special, why don't you try that? And that also helped suck me into, to the book and finding myself in there. But yeah, no, there, this is what I say too a lot. I'm a perfect example of, I got sober really against my own will, because I did not ever want to quit drinking ever.
But that's what scares me. And I want to hear your philosophy on this, because I've heard the argument, if you don't get sober for yourself, you're destined to fail. And I did not. If my wife hadn't come to me that night, I didn't. I don't think I would have quit. I didn't. I'm doing this now for myself,
Yeah.
as well as my family. I'm getting the benefit, but I did this to get other people off my back. I also knew I had to, but I didn't want to yet.
Right. Well, right. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like I said, up to me, I could have just laid down and never woken up, but I was
Right.
son. And part of me was like, I'm going to do, I would say I got sober for him. I would. Um, but now it's like, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him. And I do, I love my life. Um, but, part of me too was like, I didn't want him to have a mom who, that's how big my ego was too. Like, I don't want him to have a mom who died of a drug overdose, and I don't want, and then two, it was like, I don't want these other people, I'll refrain from my normal language that I use, but I don't want these people raising my son.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave them with them.
Because I'm a much better parent.
Exactly. That's how delusional I was, but it worked. And, come to find out, like you said, no, I'm sober because I love it now. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But yeah, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that either. I never have, that you have to get sober for yourself. I don't know.
I don't think I would have.
Myself.
I would have been content to rot and die.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I just didn't see a point. But so yeah, that's my take on that.
Do you and I'll go back to you being a sponsor, but do you see people that are wanting it versus but aren't willing to do what it takes? And how did because it sounds like at the beginning you were more wanting it for your son, but were you willing? I guess you were, because you went into rehab. But do you see people that are wanting and don't fill the other half of that thing?
Oh, definitely.
How do you approach that? How does someone determine, am I ready? Am I willing to do this, or am I wanting? Is there a way that you can determine, I guess, or I guess that has to come from your heart?
Yeah, I think if somebody's willing, they're just willing. I don't know that I could make myself be willing. I think that's something that's just either I am or I am. It's like either I'm going backward or I'm, trying to grow this way. And I guess I think people are just only as willing as they can be at any given moment. I've seen a lot of, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people pass away just by nature of, sponsoring, and just, the friends that I have now. I've made tons of friends in this new life. And that's something that I never could, I always had friends, but it was always like a small little group, and now it's just amazing. My whole world has opened up. Yeah, but as far as willingness, I don't know. I can go by my own experience, and that was I wanted to feel better once I started getting a taste of like, okay, this is not that bad. It was just doing certain actions that I didn't want to do that were making me feel better. It was really doing the opposite of what I did before. I started doing the very opposite of what I thought I should do, or what I would normally do, which is like if somebody asked me to do something in the treatment center, where normally I would bitch and complain and be like, no, I'm not doing that. I just did it. And something changed in me. That's something I've never been able to explain. How you go from, or how I went from having a deadly obsession to it's gone. Gone. Not that I don't think about it, but there's a difference between obsessing and thinking. And that's what I was going to say. It's the same with willing. If I have an obsession, the minute it enters my head, I'm doing it. And I had that experience before I got sober of like, okay, Amy, just don't think about it. Don't think about it. You won't do it. Don't think about it. You won't need to do it. And boom, I'm off. There was no pause. And now there's a pause. And so I think that might be the same thing with willingness. You're just doing it.
They one of the in the one of the things we read with AA, but it talks about we tried to find an easier, softer way, but we could not. And it wasn't until we finally gave in and said, my way's not working. And that was, I tried to moderate. I tried the only drink on the weekends. I tried all those things. I tried the easier way. And it wasn't until, there's a little bit, it's so easy in this thing, in this program, or not this program, but in recovery, we want to make it easy, make it, you can do it. We're here for you. I'll carry you. Well, there is a part of, what? This is a bitch at times. This is hard, but it's just like getting in shape to run a marathon is not easy. Otherwise, everyone would do it.
Exactly.
A lot of things are becoming a concert pianist is not easy. It takes a lot of work if you want it. And I think we try to make it softer for people. And I worry that maybe we're cheating them out of what they need. I don't know, tough love, maybe? I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
No, I agree totally. For me, a couple things. I didn't respond well to that. Oh, you're going to be okay. I needed to hear some of that, but I heard that at home. I grew up with, you can do whatever you want. Life is good, blah, blah, blah. I needed to hear people who were going through tough times and how did they get through it. I needed to hear,
right.
Yeah, you can cuss somebody out. You could even punch somebody out and not have to drink. You know what I mean? You can get that angry and there's still, a solution and you don't have to drink over it. And so nobody
I think
let me be a victim either. That's the thing. That was the other thing.
I think that's brilliant. And I think that should be, because if everyone makes it like this is, you can do this, we're here for you. At the first sign of trouble, I'm going to say, oh God, well, it's not working for me. I'm doing something wrong. So screw it, but because now I'm alone, I'm the oddball because I'm struggling on Friday night while I'm sitting in front of the liquor store because everyone else is just, oh, life is great.
Right.
I'm sober and I've never been happier. And I'm sitting there going, I'm shaking and I want a freaking beer more than I'm going nuts.
Right. And
so screw it. I'm obviously not AA material, or I'm not sobriety material. So I'm just going to go, I'm doing something wrong. So I might as well drink.
Right. Or they say, I hear it doesn't work. Well, no, it doesn't. You got to do it. Like I had to do it. This is just a book, this is just a set of parameters and it's up to me. It's like, it's my life. And that's what, I decided early on, I don't want to be miserable sober. Mm-hmm. And I certainly don't want, it to be, the end of my life. And I'm, on my deathbed waiting for the other people to start acting right so I can be happy. You know what I'm saying? So it's been, it's just been, constant reminders that I at some point needed to take responsibility for my life and my happiness, you know? And this was just, a way, that worked for me. It's not for everyone that this path, but it's like we talked about before. I have other interests, hobbies, do lots of yoga, helped a lot too. Um, Once I had some time, it was very helpful. I can't replace anything, for like you were talking about the basics, but yeah, I've learned how to really just grow up.
How have you avoided sobriety stagnation for 18 years? How has this not gotten repetitive and same old, same old, same old? How have you kept it fresh?
Well, I'm not going to say it hasn't at times gotten like, oh God, here we go again, same, but it doesn't last long. And mostly what I do is I have like a full life. I don't sit around. I never have time. I like to um, do yoga, do art. I work out. I have friends. Constantly on the go. That's one thing. But as far as um, if you're talking about attending meetings or going to AA, because it is my life now. It's not like I used to have little compartments. Now it's just one big life, and AA is a part of it, or my recovery is a part of it. And I think that so when my mind is about oh God, this sucks, here we go again, that's me not giving of myself. Whereas if I go into something with the attitude of what can I bring to the situation instead of what can I take from it, it's a whole different ball game. And there's no stagnation because I'm giving of myself. And that's something I just never did before. I mean, this disease is very, you just turn inward, and where all I thought about was me, how everything affects me, me, me. And although I loved my child and some other people, I wasn't capable of really putting anyone before me. So it's all been a change in perspective. So yeah, when things get like seemingly boring, I would say that's more time in the winter time. Just those blahs.
Mm-hmm. I have one of my problems is when I'll start something, I go all out. If I start working out, I work out 38 times a day
Right.
for about 2 weeks, and I burn myself out. How do you how do you maintain a balance?
That comes. I mean, I have to say, it took me a while, just to get like balance. But I did the same thing. But I looked at it like this: I'd rather be doing that than what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? Um, and I think as long as I have a routine that I do daily. I have, some meditate. I really enjoy meditation. I wouldn't say I'm a religious person, but I do some prayers that are common to AA, just because I still want to be a part of that. That's like been my foundation. And even though I might have my own views on the higher power thing, um, and let me tell you, they might change daily too. I don't know. I just never know what's gonna.
What is your advice for the person that's saying I'd try AA, but that G word keeps coming in, and I'm not comfortable there.
Yeah, I don't know that. I wasn't convinced when I was here. That's why it says, to seek. Oh, it's just seeking something spiritually big. I couldn't deny that there's something out there. In fact, they made me write down some powers greater than myself, and I'm like, I don't know, what the hell are you talking about? And I wrote down, okay, gravity, like that.
Sure was when I was drinking.
Right. I mean, that's a power,
Yeah.
but that's all I needed. And the sun rising, I'm like, well, I don't control that either, but I probably would do control everything else in this world. That's how That's how big my ego was. And come to find out, those two are the same thing. I didn't know that, but that's just how it started for me. And then I don't know. I like
But the step, but this.
reading on it. I like seeking. That was the only thing I had never tried in my whole life was God or religion too. So I didn't have anything against it too. I know some people come in just against it, and I just thought there's just no proof, you know. And the only proof I still have been able to find is that that obsession was gone. And I still don't even know if that's proof, but it's enough for me to be convinced that, hey, there's something to this. If that is gone, like gone, that blew me away. Um, so I know there's all types of, I just don't think you have to, I didn't have to define it. I didn't have to, you know, give a lecture about it to anyone. I wasn't graded on anything. I just got to explore what worked for me as far as a higher power. And someday, especially at the beginning, it was just not you, Amy. You know, that was a big enough higher power. As long as it wasn't me, that was good enough. You know, it wasn't me making the decisions of the day. You know, so maybe I asked somebody, what would you do about this? And then I actually listened to them. Then I actually took it into consideration. That was a big change. You
And
know,
then you ignored it. No, I'm just
not
kidding.
always. I mean, not always, but
Yeah,
it did
no.
something. My mind, it's like my mind opened up, and I was able to hear what I needed to hear this whole time.
When I was able to say, you know what, Jeff, your ideas haven't worked out so well. Why don't you try something different?
Exactly.
That helped.
You gave it your best shot, Amy. Look, look where you so.
Last question. How important, and you'll know where I'm coming from when I say how vital is connection to recovery in your opinion?
Oh, it's key. You know, um, yeah, I mean, like I, was saying before, that was just something I wasn't able to do. I was literally not able to do it. And, to be able to, you know, share with people, be totally honest about yourself, say things that, you could not say to the average person. And just have somebody, or even like look at somebody, they know exactly what you're going through. Um, I think that's been a huge part of my recovery. There's no way I could have done this without it. And I've heard someone say that that can even be like the higher power is the connection. Where before, like I said, being in our own little bubble, looking in on all the action, not really being a part of, because I've got like this, it's all judgments, thoughts, how am I looking, how am I feeling in the middle, and I can be in the mid, in the middle of a bunch of people and just can be completely alone when I'm drinking. Um, but it's almost like connection is the opposite of that. So yeah, there's just no way. And I think that's where I see a lot of people, relapse. They just start to pull away. They don't want to answer the phone anymore. Um, Certainly aren't reaching out, and they think, oh, I'm cool. I'm home. Um, I got what I need, or you know what I mean. It starts to look like getting a house and a job and a wife and a this and like that's the solution for recovery, and it's not. And I think that's where people then they lose the connection with like-minded people, and then I've just heard that story over and over again. loss.
What's scary is how slow that can happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is other than talk. I guess it's me calling you and saying, "Hey, do you think I'm slipping away from connection?" Or I don't know. Maybe monitoring each other. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Here it is for me too. It's taking the actions that I've been taking all along, whether I feel like doing them or not, because that's what I've noticed is that, well, I'm good today. I don't really need anyone. And then all of a sudden, like, I'll be like, why don't I just see how so and so's doing today? Pick up the phone, and all of a sudden, I'm a different person when I get off the phone with this person, and that's what it is. It's like I've had so many years of experience of knowing that that is my solution is connecting with others. Yeah, not it doesn't even have to be like this is what I'm going through. It's like, hey, what are you going through? And somehow that's I've just had over and over. I remember a time real quick, and then I'll
No,
shut up.
you're good.
I was and it was so bad. I have no idea what I was even upset about. That's how bad it was. But I was like I couldn't get out of whatever this funk was. I wrote it down. Blah blah blah. Probably called somebody. All of a sudden, a newer person in sobriety called me, um, and we talked, and it was totally gone. Right. So then I forget about what I'm so worried about. We hang up the phone, and I was like, that blew me away. That was amazing. So I saw right there that it's not the drink. It's the mental stuff before the drink that, you know what I'm saying? So, it just really made clear, that my mind is, it's not necessarily my friend at all times. Sometimes it's trying to kill me. And I will say this, so that happened. I get off the phone. It came back, okay, a couple hours later or whatever. But I had that experience to know that, hey, maybe call another new person, or maybe just try and get out of yourself again. And that was just it was just a really vivid example of that, what my brain goes through or tells me.
I think that I'd probably be, and I know I talk to a lot of people, but I think I would be a lousy sponsor because when I listen to myself, that's when I usually would end up drinking. It's when I'm listening to someone else, I'm listening to you, the cravings don't hit. When I'm listening to another alcoholic talk or someone else that's going through this, that's when I'm fine. It's when I'm sitting by myself, just listening to my own head that and I got to get out of that. That's,
Yeah,
those were when I'm just alone and I got no one else to talk to and I'm just hearing Jeff talk, that's when usually the thoughts creep in. So I got to get on the phone with someone else.
absolutely.
But
Understand.
well, what is your last bit of advice for someone that's new? What are the warning signs that, because I had a buddy of mine slip up this week, so I've been very adamant about trying to figure out what I can tell him as far as what did he miss. I'm trying to figure out, what was in his head, what was he thinking, what was he not thinking, what was he doing, what should he have done, what didn't he do, what did he do right, what did he do wrong, what are the signs, I guess, is there a warning sign or a red flag you see with people that maybe are heading for a relapse that they can to be aware of?
Well, I think it depends on, if I know have been around somebody who's had a couple months or so of sobriety, and I know you kind of get a basic feel for their personality without drinking. I can usually tell there's a slight change in attitude or irritation. And sometimes it causes me irritation, and I've seen over and over again, and I've been told that that's, somebody's, untreated alcoholism. I'm sure I've had it too, and I've irritated the heck out of people. But it's a matter. does that go on for days? Do they then, or are they wanting a solution? Are they noticing their own irritation? So I see that. But honestly, I don't know that just like, I know I don't have the power to stop anyone from drinking if that's what they're going to do. If they ask me, that's a whole nother story. If they want, to talk or just want some suggestions, that's probably a sign that they're probably not going to pick up. But yeah, so that's what I would say. It's a slight.
I lost you there. You just kicked out. I'm not here. Oh, now you're back. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, it's an ever so slight, I guess, personality change that I notice.
Yeah.
Or they disappear totally and don't talk to you. But
I know that when I had my relapse a year ago, Super Bowl, looking back, I probably knew a solid week, if not 2 weeks ahead of time, that it was going to happen. Even because I knew I think I knew the date because Elizabeth was leaving town for that weekend.
right. See,
But I didn't know that until looking back on it. But I think it was that specific in my subconscious. But when that Friday hit, it was, people, Jeff, why didn't you call me? I didn't want to call you.
exactly.
And I sure as hell wouldn't have answered the phone if you had called me. We're over. The alcohol hadn't hit me, even touched my lips yet, but it was over. The battle was done. I lost.
Exactly. And that's why I say if someone's going to drink, they might need to drink again. I mean, I'm certainly not going to say that, but I don't know. I just know that I've never been able to come up with the right words to stop somebody from picking up a drink.
Yeah.
And if they're calling me before they drink, they probably weren't going to drink anyway, really. But yeah, I mean, there's always, I don't know, to be honest, because I am an AA, and just from what I've seen, it is, if somebody's truly honest and truly alcoholic, they have no idea why they picked up a drink. Do you know what I mean? If you have a disease, it's like, if you got cancer and it comes back, do you have a reason for that? And I truly believe it's a disease, and it could be just like the work that I do outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just see it, and I'm surrounded by it, and so I can't really fault somebody for picking up a drink if they're alcoholic, because I understand that I know I was powerless, and again, I don't see it's just too bad, because if somebody has cancer and it comes back, people aren't mad at them like they do get with alcohol.
Yeah. Hey, stay on. Don't hang up yet, but we are way past the hour. Good news. I've been looking at some of the comments in the chat, and you will be coming back. So there's a lot of good points and some real good topic, further discussion stuff. So you've been asked to come back. So
Cool.
hang on. But thanks, everyone. I'm going to be in Vail on Thursday. So we are still going to go live Thursday evening. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to try and just do it on site, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of a panel discussion and have some fun. So join us 8:00 Thursday, and then Ketsia and Peggy have another guest on Saturday morning, which is going to be a lot of fun as well. So anyone, thanks so much, Amy.
Thank you for having me.
Really good stuff, and I think you make this real. That's the one I can say. You make me feel like maybe I'm not so much of an oddball in this thing. So thanks so much. All right, everyone, have a great one. Be safe and keep talking to each other.